Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to America once again, and this is a beer that I've wanted to review for a hell of a long time, and when I heard that it was coming through the small partiers in Seiston-Balaga, I have to admit I was pretty damn ecstatic about it. So for this one we are going to return to Tampa in Florida and we're going to review another beer from Cigar City Brewing. So this one is the legendary Marshal Zhukov's Russian Imperial Stout, coming in at 11.8% ABV. And this one I'm sure will be an absolute monster, named of course after the famous Russian general from the Second World War. So yeah, very much looking forward to this one. I had a quick look on Rate Beer earlier on. This one has a 99 overall and within the style, so you know this will be a very special beer I'm sure, and I hope you guys enjoy my take on it. This is a beer that I've wanted to review for ages, as I said earlier. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this one, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. So as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Cigar City Brewing before. No doubt there will be some more in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the American beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Cigar City Brewing then before we crack open the beer. So on to my brewery notes. Cigar City Brewing, as I mentioned to you earlier, are based in Tampa in Florida, and the company was founded back in 2007 by Joey Redner, who'd previously worked for Dunedin Brewing and also as a beer writer for the Tampa Bay Times. But he hired Wayne Wambles as his brewmaster in 2008, and then the brewery produced their first beers in January of 2009. But they're also known particularly for their limited Hunafu Imperial Stout, my apologies, and they host a beer festival every March to celebrate the release of this one, and it's supposed to be like really pretty damn awesome, so I'm hoping that I can get a hold of a bottle of that at some point in the future to review for you here. But as of March 2016, Cigar City are in a partnership with Oscar Blues Brewery from Longmont in Colorado, and the main reason for forming this partnership was that Joey wanted to expand the capacity of the brewery, but he didn't want to have to kind of borrow the massive sums of money that it takes to go through such a brewery expansion. So their facility that they have in Tampa in Florida has an output of around 60 BBLs, and so for quite a little bit of time they were contract brewing at places like Brew Hub and stuff like this, but this has changed a little bit since they've gone into partnership with Oscar Blues. And a lot of their beers have been released in cans as a result of this. I think some of their beers are being brewed over in Colorado and stuff like this now, but if I remember rightly, Oscar Blues do actually have different breweries now, not simply the one in Colorado, but they are Oscar Blues of course are known for being one of the bigger capacity breweries in Colorado, and they're probably one of the better known craft breweries over here in Europe as well. And certainly since this partnership has come into effect, it's been a lot easier for us to get the Cigar City beers over here, so which, you know, obviously is a very kind of welcome change. But I'm guessing with this one being in the big 650ml bottle, this is probably one of the ones that is actually brewed completely in Florida, and it does say that on the side here, brewed and tapped in Tampa, Florida, USA. So yeah, really interesting company this one. Cigar City are probably the best known, at least to foreigners. I'm not sure to local Americans of course, but Cigar City Brewing was certainly the first of the Florida craft breweries that I heard of over here. So really cool that we're able to review some of their beers for you now, and as I say, this is one that I've wanted to review for a hell of a long time. So yeah, if you want to learn a little bit more about the brewery, you can check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram and things like that, and that'll keep you up to date with all the latest goings on over there. They are still quite an experimental brewery. They're always putting different things out there, but they do have their main kind of core range of beer as well. But let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself. So as I mentioned to you earlier, this one is an 11.8% Russian Imperial Stout. There you can see the artwork on this. I'm just checking that you're seeing that on the camera there. You can see there is the Cigar City brewing symbol, which is really quite nice. Just bring that out and let the camera focus on it again. And they've changed the artwork of this one. It used to have a very kind of old school picture of Georgy Zhukov on the side, but you can see it's a little bit more there. If you can see the face, I'm just checking down here that you're seeing that, you can definitely see Georgy Zhukov's face. But he was a very, very famous general, of course. He was conscripted into the Russian army during the First World War, of course. And after that, he was prominent in the Russian Civil War as well. He joined the Bolshevik Party. He went to, and then later on in the Second World War, of course, he became known for commanding a lot of the different fronts. It actually got to the point where he was that famous and that, well known, that he was personally selected to accept the German instrument of surrender in 1945. And then after the Second World War, of course, Stalin, he was one of the few people that apparently understood Stalin's personality, and that kind of led to him being very popular and also being kind of pushed out of the way, because Stalin was fearful that his position would come into question, of course, because of the popularity of Zhukov. But he returned to favour after Stalin died, and then later apparently he spent a lot of his life, basically fishing. Apparently he was given after the Second World War, or during the Second World War, I forget, he was given a set of fishing tackle by one of the US presidents, and he was so kind of proud of this gift, if you like, that apparently he used to fish with that set of fishing tackle for the rest of his life. So a very, very interesting man. I would love to read his memoirs at some point and see all the different stuff that he said. But one of the best known generals of the Second World War, along with the likes of Rommel, Montgomery, you've got Patton and all of these guys too. So yeah, very, very famous guy, and a beer that's kind of fittingly named, I guess. A Russian Imperial Stout named after Marshal Zhukov. That is pretty cool, I have to say. I'm a bit of a history buff as well, if you hadn't guessed. But like I say, 11.8% Imperial Stout. So without further ado, let's crack this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. It says on the side here 70 IBUs, 11.8% ABV, and it is just simply a plain black bottle cap on this one. This one, of course, was released through the small partiers in Systembolaget here in Sweden on the 1st of February 2019. So as we open up this bottle, you can see there's a little bit of smoky notes coming out of it, but as we pour it, you can see just how thick this beer actually is. Just look at that lovely dark ebony rosewood colour there. That should do for the pour at the moment. You should get 2 glasses out of this. So this is one of the things with the big American bombers. These are most definitely made for sharing. We're used to the 330s and the 500ml bottles over here in Europe, right enough. Even to get a 500ml bottle of an Imperial Stout is, pretty heavy going. But yeah, as you can see with this beer, and as you would expect from an Imperial Stout, this one's poured a lovely dark ebony rosewood colour. There's a solid half finger of a frothy, I would say very, very dark tan head on this one. If you can see, if I put this right up to the camera, you can see just how dark the head of this one is. 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass there, and a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there. But overall, in terms of its appearance, there's nothing particularly surprising about this one when you consider that it is a Russian Imperial Stout. It looks absolutely beautiful. So let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this one. Oh, that smells like an absolute monster. So yeah, straight away with this one, it gives you kind of everything you would expect. There's a good roasty black malt backbone to this one. There's a hell of a lot of chocolate in there, and it smells like quite a high cocoa chocolate. We're talking the kind of 80-90% cocoa out of this beer. It's also got a little bit of that almost charred edge to it, that sort of charred chocolate bar type thing. But there's a little bit of an almost milky note to it as well. I think there's a little bit of vanilla in here. But it's almost got a little bit, it's definitely got a little touch of a woody character to it as well, but not too much. But to me, this one, in terms of its aroma, this Imperial Stout really leans towards the roasty, toasty side of things. And in fairness, that is what you would expect of a Russian Imperial Stout. They do tend to lean towards the darker, roasty, toasty side of things, obviously compared to the sweet stouts and the coffee stouts and things like that. But even the coffee stouts, I think, can be very, very smooth, but the Russian Imperial Stouts, sometimes they can have a little edge of sweetness to them, but mainly they're quite roasty and toasty and dark. But yeah, this is a beautiful smelling beer, this one. As I always say, take a little bit of time and just enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But there's definitely, to me, there's a little bit of a kind of brown sugary note to this one. It does have a kind of woody element to it as well, and there's maybe some kind of nutty subtleties to this beer as well. But the aroma, it really is interesting. I mean, there's maybe a little touch of a kind of almost tobacco-y note coming out of this one. Yeah. The woody and tobacco, definitely with the woody quality that this beer has and the nutty notes, there's almost just a little bit of a kind of tobacco-y or kind of cakey note coming out of this beer, but lovely roasty black malt backbone to it, some high cocoa chocolate in there, and then the further you get into the aroma, the more you start to pick up maybe a little touch of brown sugar. The woody and the nutty notes are coming out, and also you've got this almost kind of tobacco-y type aroma in there as well. Lovely bit of earthiness from the hops in there, a little bit of a kind of floral grassy quality as well. But the floral grassy notes, I can't speak in this video, the floral grassy notes coming out of this beer are very kind of subtle. It's just a little light edge of grassiness on the end. But the further you go into the aroma of this one, the more juicy and fruity it gets. It's got a little bit of a, it's more of a kind of figgy aroma that's coming out of this one, and then the further into the aroma you get a little bit of that kind of candied strawberry note. If you think about these little heart-shaped sweets that you get in the Haribo Star Mix, that's the kind of red fruity ester that you're getting off of this beer. But it smells absolutely beautiful. So just take a little bit of time, as I always say, and enjoy the aroma of this beer before you get it in. When you sugar it up a little bit more, it does get a little bit more of the earthiness and the roasty black malts coming out of it. So take a bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer, as I always say, but let's have a taste of this one then. So this one is the Marshal Zhukov's Russian Imperial Stout, coming in at 11.8% from Cigar City Brewing over in Tampa, Florida in America. Let's get stuck into this one. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Oh yeah. Tell you straight away, this beer was definitely worth the wait. That's a monster of an Imperial Stout. The Russian Imperial Stouts, I've not had one for quite a little while actually, but it's always been a beer that I really quite enjoy. If you like your big roasty toasty Imperial Stouts, this one, this particular sub-style if you like, is one that you're really going to enjoy. So yeah, you can feel with this one, there's a roasty black malt backbone there. That just blankets the middle of your tongue. But it's kind of nullified a little bit. The high cocoa chocolate just comes in and sort of smooths out the whole centre of your palate. It is a good 80-90% sort of cocoa that's just sitting there in the middle of your palate. The roasty black malt is definitely the backbone of this beer. On top of that, that high cocoa chocolate sitting there, and in the centre of your palate, you are getting a little element of a slightly milkier chocolate quality coming out of this one, but the further you go into the aftertaste, the more you're getting some of the kind of slightly sweeter notes to it. In the flavour, you do get a little hint of brown sugar, I think, out of this beer. I think it's fair to say that. It's quite a slightly dark, almost caramelised, treacly molasses sort of thing in this beer. Yeah, in the middle of your palate, definitely a little bit of brown sugar in there. It sweetens up. I'm finding that it sweetens up the further you go into the flavour of this one. But it's interesting because outside of that sort of centre circle of your palate, if you like, that's where the brown sugars are coming out, and it's more of a treacle molasses kind of flavour, as I said. But just outside of that brown circle, you start to get more of the roasty black malts just pushing their way out of this beer. It's really interesting, the whole kind of combination of flavours that you have going on in this one. So when you move a little bit further towards the front of your palate, I think there's a little element of a woody flavour to this one, and if you go just right in the middle of that, if you just go from the very centre of your palate forward a little bit, you can pick out that there's a little bit of a nutty quality in this one. And this beer is very interesting because it starts off very dark and very roasted. It starts to sweeten up, and then the further you go into the aftertaste of this one, the centre of your palate stays quite sweet, but then the edges of your palate start to become more and more kind of roasty, toasty and dark, I would say. Yeah, it's really just beautifully done, this one. I want to say there's a little tiny touch of a kind of vanilla quality to this one. The further, as I say, with the sort of woody and nutty flavours you've got there, when you go further forward on the palate on this one, I want to say there's a little bit of a kind of kind of almost vanilla flavour coming out of this one further forward on your palate. It's really nice how this whole thing goes together. On the hoppy side of things, back corners of the palate, you've got a good whack of earthiness in there. As you come further forward, it just kind of pushes, it just kind of smooths out a little bit, and there's maybe a little touch of herbal quality there on the sides of the palate as well. I do wonder if they've used a little bit of an English hop in here, maybe some Fugels or something like this, but they could have gone for one of the American hops like Summit to give you this big earthiness there. But the earthiness in this one is contributing a lot to the IBUs that this beer has, along with that roasty black malt backbone. But as you come further forward along the sides of your palate, it definitely evolves into a slightly more herbal flavour. You can pick out that there's a little touch of a floral aromaticity at the front corners of the tongue, then round the very front curve of the palate, it does just become that little bit lighter and grassy, although in fairness you can feel a little touch of earthiness just kind of poking its way out there. But the way the flavours go together in this beer is really, really nice. But as you'd expect from a Russian Imperial Stout, it's definitely a more roasty, toasty kind of sub-style. And in terms, to be fair, compared to some other Russian Imperial Stouts I've had, I would say this one does have a little bit more of a sweetness to it. But then when you say that, one of the things I've always found with American craft beers is the American craft beers do tend to be a good bit sweeter. When they take these old world styles and do them in the new world, particularly America, it does tend to be the case that they are a good bit sweeter than the original ones would have been. You see that with a lot of the American barley wines compared to the English ones and stuff like that. And to me, this is quite a sweet Russian Imperial Stout, but that's not a complaint at all. It's just something I've observed over the years of reviewing these beers. But this is, as I said, it's a beautiful, beautiful beer. And I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink this, but this is certainly not one that you're going to session by no stretch of the imagination. So behind that front curve of the palate then, you've got that little oily bubble where those juicy, fruity esters start to come out of the beer. And for me, this one's really interesting because you've got those kind of very dark red fruity esters that you kind of associate with dark chocolate, that very high cocoa chocolate that I was talking about. So you've got the very kind of rich, sort of plummy red fruit esters in there, but at the same time you've got a little bit of a sharper kind of raisiny note as well. And the further that you go into the aftertaste, I think you're getting a little bit more of a kind of candied red fruit sort of thing out of this beer. So yeah, when you take this beer in, you get the rich plums, a little bit of the sharp raisins in there, but the further you go into it, you start to get the more kind of figgy flavours, and then it evolves to be more of a kind of red candied strawberry type thing. As I said earlier, like these little heart-shaped sweets you get out of the Haribo Star Mix, it really has that kind of element to it. The further you go into the aftertaste as well, you can feel more of the roasty black malts coming out of this beer. A lot of people might say that that's a kind of coffee flavour, but it's not quite as smooth as I would expect from some coffee. This one, in fairness, compared to some other Imperial Stout beers that I've had, the roasty black malts in this one come across as more of a coffee, but I don't, to me, I don't, it's just the roasty blackness, the roasty qualities in this beer just aren't quite smooth enough to come across as a coffee flavour. That's the one thing I would say about this beer. It actually says on the side of the bottle here that it's got hints of roasty espresso, and to me that the roasty black malt flavours in this beer are just a little bit kind of too strong, if you like. They're not smooth enough to really come across as an espresso kind of coffee flavour for me. But this is, as I say, this is a beautiful, beautiful beer. In terms of the Russian Imperial Stouts, I would say this one's a little bit sweeter than some of the other ones I've had, but that's something you seem to get, I think, with a lot of American beers and the American takes on the old world styles generally. But this is a beautiful beer, and I would not hesitate to drink this again. I really like what they've done with this one, and I can absolutely see why it's so highly rated. I love what's going on in this one. And I can get, they were saying on the side of the bottle as well that it has a little bit of a herbal quality to it, and you really do get that on the sides of your palate. I suspect heavily that they've used some English hops in here. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit of Fugel and Kent Goldings that's in here. Probably along with a little bit of Williamette or Summit, or something like that from America as well. I don't think with the English hops you get quite the same level of fruity quality out of the beer. But it's lovely, and if you get the chance to get one of these, you know, just have a go at it for yourself and see what you think. In terms of the mouthfeel then, definitely a full-bodied beer. Carbonation's very smooth, big oily mouthfeel from this one, which is what you'd expect. There is a little hint of creaminess in there, but really the Russian Imperial Stouts are more oily rather than anything else. It's mainly the sweet stouts and things that you might expect to be a little bit more creamy, but lovely bit of hoppy bitterness to this beer. As it said on the bottle, it's 70 IBUs. That's coming both from the black malts that this one has, which come out a little bit more the further into the aftertaste you go, and also some nice kind of hoppy qualities as well. But lovely balance between roastiness and sweetness in the malt base, both from the chocolate and from the sort of brown sugary notes in there as well, and you've also got a good interesting mix of different fruity flavours in there too. But overall, just another beautiful beer, and it's been very cool to review this one for you after wanting to do so for a very long time. So let's leave it at that for this one. This one is the Marshal Zhukov's Russian Imperial Stout, 11.8%. from Cigar City Brewing in Tampa over in Florida. It was really cool to be able to find this one here in Sweden, and hopefully I can have a go at their new Mouthfeel or whatever it's called. I'm forgetting the name of it. Hopefully I can have a go at their other really famous Imperial Stout, because this one certainly kind of whets my appetite for that. So yeah, lovely beer this one. A fitting tribute, I guess you could say, to Georgy Zhukov as well, who achieved a hell of a lot in the Second World War. But let's leave it at that for this one. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Cigar City Brewing as well, and I'm sure I'll return to these guys in the fairly near future. Please let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from these guys as well, and check out my social media, and I will catch you guys very soon. Once again, the Marshal Zhukov's Russian Imperial Stout, 11.8% from Cigar City Brewing in Tampa, Florida, over in America. Until the next time, Slanja just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slanja, skål.